Well, if you follow my channel, you know that I've been struggling with this wooden welding bench for at least a couple of years. Now, fine product that it is, Black & Decker Workmate, it's time to upgrade to something that doesn't burn. So, Vevor offered me a welding bench and I'm going to review it. Now, I know that some people react if I get something from China, but believe me, in this country it's very difficult to buy anything that's not made in China. And honestly, you know, whatever it says on your pants, they were probably made there anyway. So let's get it in. I'll unbox it, but it's really quite heavy. I don't know exactly the weight of it, but you'll see it'll be a bit of a struggle to get it up these steps. You know, about the China thing, please don't take offense. Offense? Offense? These were not made in China. I don't know where the wood was grown though. They came from Castleford, if you know it, because my fence blew down. Right, it says on it team lift, so I'm the team of it. Keep your back straight, use your knees. What happened to the sunshine? It was here for a bit. Now then, it has got a bit beaten up, to be honest, but I think everything's there. Right, I think this is the front, that's the back. How do you actually review a welding bench anyway? It's probably not going to improve my welding. I mean, you know, is it rigid? How big are the holes in the top, perhaps? How thick is the top? Maybe. I don't know. Do I like the colour? What else can you say? It came by courier. DPX, I think it was. No, XDP. Which I'd never heard of before, but I got plenty of updates as it was arriving. I tend to find that each Vevor item arrives with a different courier. Right, well I know what they are. And there's even some instructions. Now, we'll see how good they are. There's a general picture of it though. Now I can see straight away that this is not battleship grade. It's more like light frigate grade, if we're comparing with ships, that is. But I'll use it for more than just a welding table, you see, because I use that Black & Decker Workmate as a work table as well, and then having this on wheels will be really useful. Now over here I've put the prices, so £141, 179 US dollars, 165 euros, and the spec says that this will carry 600 pounds, which is 273 kilos, as a dead weight on the top, I guess it means. Okay, this is the end plate here, this one with the holes in, not the top. We haven't got to that yet. There's all the angle sides, whatever you call them. Come on. Okay, there's the top there. That must be the lower shelf, the under shelf. Seems quite solid. Now at some point I need to look at the instructions, but being a man, that's usually after I've tried to make it. Oh, it's the best way, isn't it? Right, that is it, so I think I've got everything. So here's the top plate. How thick is that? Now I did hear somebody else reviewed one of these I think he said they were 3mm thick. They might be useful for something. Well, you can give me a hand with this. Assembly steps. Starting with the top then. Screws through the top. And. Okay, then the legs on. Then the sides on. Then the wheels on. And guess what? That's... Hey presto. Well, according to this, I need the top, that's obvious, part 12, part 2. Well, I was looking for numbers on any of these pieces and I can't see any. The only marking I found is an L on here. That's what my dad used to say. There was L on here. If you get that joke, folks. It perhaps doesn't translate very well. Right, I'm just going to have to guess what these things are then by the pictures. Well, I found all the screws, but you're going to have to sort them out because there's 3 types. There's countersunk, round head, and hex and hex. And the instructions don't tell you which type of nut to put with which type of screw. But just counting them out, there's 33 of those hex screws and 33 of these nuts with a flange on and a serration, which is kind of self-locking somehow. And then 17 of these domed screws and 11 of the countersunk screws, and there's 27 of those nuts. So I think they put in extras. I'm guessing I'll need 10 of those on that top. We'll see. Now, there's no spring washers for these. Does it matter? I don't know. We'll see. I'm beginning to understand this now. So this one with the L on, there's actually 4 pieces here of angle, and those are the 4 corners, the legs in other words. So maybe L was for legs or was L for left, I don't know. And these 4 fastened together, they go around the underside of this top. These straps go on the sides. These brackets are where these wheels join on. These wheels seem pretty solid actually. Well, I'm just about getting the hang of this. There's 3 screws along here, 2 screws down here. But I'm going to get some spring washers. I don't want this thing rattling loose all the time. It'll just become irritating. So I think it's worth the effort to put the washers on now. Now, I was going to order these by post. I usually do. I mean, even if it's only 5 miles to pick up the washers, I won't do it because it'll cost me that in fuel. That's just my view of things, okay? But I've just realised there's a hardware shop just opened in the village. I'm going to try that. I might get them today. Well, not long after, the little hardware shop came good. So I got 30 of these for £1.80. Not super cheap, to be honest. At Toolstation you can get 100 for £1.30. Toolstation is a national chain of hardware outlets, but that would be a 5-mile round trip. And twice recently I've used that little hardware shop, which is only recently opened. I needed a box of screws to be putting those fence panels up, and it kind of saved the day. Yeah, very useful. I suppose it must be quite confusing for people who live overseas, not in the UK, the fact that we use pounds for weight and pounds for money, although I suppose these days we should be using kilos and not pounds. Come on, yeah. But it is kind of confusing, isn't it? But it's not the most confusing things about the old imperial weights and measures, is it? These nuts are 14mm. You know, everything's lining up spot on this. I won't go into this detail on everything. It's just as we get started, really. I'm still trying to figure out which screws are which. Now you can see here, I think it's for putting the wheels on, 16 of these countersunk. But they're not countersunk, they must be these dome heads. Now look, I'm being dim here because I've just told you about this, but actually look, it says fixing screws are M812 round head screws for the casters. Well, I've found out that the L leg has a mate called R. You don't see it until you open them up. Now the L and R legs have got extra holes in. So there's a couple of holes down here for the handle to go on, and there's a couple of holes here for the rack to go on. And these that are not L or R, these don't have as many holes in. Well, we're getting there. I've had to move the camera back. It's quite a size. When you're putting these legs on, these holes here, they're for the straps. So you want them towards the top. And then these are 3 of the straps that go around there to brace these legs. And then this one, this tool rack, forms the strap at this side. Now it's the usual deal. I got this for free. And if you use the link in the description to buy this product, you get 5% off. But there's also a link to other similar products. And I think there's a general link as well that gives you 5% off for anything that you buy from Vevor, if I remember correctly. I think that's how it works. And they work in all countries where Vevor trades, if you want to try them. I may have proved that I can't read already, but I'm struggling with this because when you see there's 4 holes in each corner and the screws go in from the top. Now I've worked out that the legs go on the outside of this tray, and then the corner brackets go on the outside of that. But when I look at this picture, because there are no screws in the corners on that tray, and in fact, if you can see that, indeed there aren't. So this manual is a bit misleading. So it looks like the wheels go onto these corner brackets first, and then it all bolts together. And then there is a gap between that edge and this corner bracket because this leg is caught between. Well, there's no room for spring washers on these, but no matter, I suppose. And then the whole unit seems to rest on top of these screws here. It's a bit like flat pack kitchens where they say easy assembly, and then sometime about 2 o'clock in the morning when you're ready to set fire to it all, you realise it's not really that easy, is it? Well, this seems to be the way to do it. So I've got bolts in all 4 corners and it seems to hold itself together, and this seems to be how it goes because now all the holes line up. So the tray goes on the inside, the leg goes on the outside, and then this bracket goes on the outside of that. Curious. Fitted kitchen syndrome. There we go. That's it. There. So all that remains now is to tighten everything up and make sure it's square, I suppose. I'll probably go around it once more tomorrow to make sure everything's tight. These holes are 16mm. Years ago I bought these big 16mm bolts with nuts and washers, and they might be modified for some clamps to clamp things to this table. Now how strong is it? Well, let's just put something on it and see. If I reach over here, now there's going to be a plane going over, I can hear it. We'll just put up with that. So if I get this big vise, whoa, from over here, blimey, that's heavy enough. There's a bit of spring in it, but to be honest with you, for anything that I would want to weld, I think it's great. Look at the size of it for £141. Now if it was rubbish, I would say it was rubbish. You've seen the good and the bad. I've had my eye on one of these for a long time, and now I've got it. I'll probably put it over in this corner. Well, I've kind of lost track of where we are with this video right now. It's the next day anyway. I think I've already done the ending, haven't I? Well, this is the postscript then. I better give you the size of it. 40 inches long. That's 1015. And it's 2 foot across, 6'10", and I think it's 36 high, well 3 foot, 9'10", and it's just about perfect height because of my little stool. And when you're TIG welding, I'm sure most of you know this, when you're TIG welding you want to be really up close to your work, so you're like this, and you just want to be laying down and your hand wants to be touching here, so that's just right. But I'm going to make a top for it. Now I've got some board here, that was my son's train set board, and I kept it for about 20 years with the train set on it, and he said, well, I don't need the board, just put the bits in a box. So that freed it up, and I've cut a top that just fits, and I've got some piece, here we are, I've got this bit of square, 12mm square wood here, and I'm just going to cut 8 pieces equal and just put them on the corners underside, so they'll underneath they'll sit like that. Look, that's the idea, and then that'll be my working top. Now it's good to have something made in England, isn't it? Good hardboard plywood. Well, it's not actually because I bought this in Japan. I don't talk about it much, but it's true, because for a couple of years we lived in Tokyo, and I said to my friends, Japanese friends, where can I get some hardboard? There's a plane outside. Hardboard for my kids' train set, you see. So we had an idea where to go, and they told me wood shop is Zaimoku-ya. And where do you go to find out directions? Well, you go and ask a policeman, don't you? So I went to the police box, which is a koban, and in there were about 4 policemen, and I didn't speak any Japanese really, and they didn't speak much English, most of them. And so I explained what I wanted, and they were, within a few minutes, they were all saying, "Wooddo, wooddo, ah, wooddo, wooddo, yeah, okay, thanks, but you know, where's the wood shop?" So a young policeman came out, and he spoke good English and sent me in the right direction. Anyway, I'll just cut these and I'll give you the rest of the story. I don't know if you're interested in this stuff. I don't much talk about it, but I just wanted to say this is Japanese, or most likely it's Japanese. I certainly got it from there. You can see where the railway track was, look. Anyway, like that and like that. I've allowed enough, but we'll turn it over because this is the top side, it will be. So to finish that story then, off we go to find the wood yard, and it was on a busy road, a built-up area, and I don't suppose anybody would know it, but it was on a road between Azabu Juban and Mita, 2 districts in Tokyo, and we find this wood yard. So there was a sort of a big door, like a warehouse door, and I knock on it, and after a while this old lady comes, and I explain what I want. Woodo, you know, mokuzai is wood, I think, lumber. Try to explain anyway. So you know, in Japanese there's a polite form and a sort of a casual form. So in the casual form, she says to me, "I don't understand," but very abrupt, you know, wakanai, I don't understand. Shuts the door in my face, and I'm thinking, well, that's it, that's the end. Anyway, after a little while, her son appears. I'm sure it was a son, it would be, I think, with a bit more patience. Now, we never spoke, but between us, we figured out, yeah, I wanted this piece of plywood, and we carried it home, back down the street. It was about half a mile, I would guess, to where we lived. Past the police box, and lots of smiles. Wooddo. Another successful day in the police force. Where's my screwdriver gone? Oh, here we are. Right. So that's the story. Let's find a square. Oh, here we are. It's funny, today everything is where I need it. This should do, shouldn't it? I wouldn't want to leave you with the impression that I speak Japanese, because I certainly don't. Just the odd party phrase. Do you come here often? Oh yes, I often go to the wood shop. Now I need to decide whether or not to paint this, varnish it, or leave it plain. But we'll leave that for another day, so as far as this goes, I think we're finished. Thanks for watching. This is red primer, not red oxide primer, but red house paint primer. I thought we'd have a change.